People, we are happy. Oh, on one hand, we are unfortunate because we can't have him here in Hamburg. But, you know, at least we've got a connection to him in Santa Monica, in his studio, where he's right now recording his forthcoming album. And we're going to talk about that with Jackson Browne. It's a pleasure talking to you, sir, over there in the US.
Thank you.
You should have been on a tour through Europe. You should have been in the Philharmonie in Hamburg. So how unhappy are you that you can't be among us?
Well, it's a great disappointment not to be out playing, and the bigger problem is we don't know really. We can't be sure that we will be able to even. We've postponed our touring for a year, and we're not even. I'm not sure that we'll even be able to do it then. I mean, maybe. I mean, I've got also plans to tour in other countries that have done better with the pandemic than have the United States. It's mainly the United States I worry that they're just whistling in the dark when it comes to the pandemic, and they won't. I'm trying to imagine a stadium full of people coming together for a live concert, and not happening yet. Of course, all hell is breaking loose on every front, and not only the pandemic, but politically and in terms of climate change.
Talking about hell breaking loose, personally, you were COVID-19 positive, so you had the disease. How did you? How was it? You know, how did you come through it? And did you take it seriously in the first place, in the beginning?
Yeah, yeah. We were all distancing. I was working on my record here in the studio, and we were all wearing masks and distancing. We still do. Even when there's only two of us working, and you know, I've had it, and there's been a lot of discussion for the last 6 months as to whether you can get it again, and they're still going back and forth about that. Just as they released a paper saying it's for sure you can't get it again. Then there's the next day there's a case in China where someone evidently really did get it for a second time. So even when they say you might have immunity, that immunity might only last 3 or 4 months. So there's this much talked about second wave that I think they've projected, you know, for the whole world. But meanwhile, our first wave had a big upsurge in it, you know, so that we have all these, the political situation is such that all these states have their own approach to whether to wear a mask or whether or not they're going to allow businesses to start back up and people to get together. And that's a big condition in our what's called our democracy, you know, that the states have a lot of individual you know, say in these things. And so, you know, California was doing really, really well in the beginning, and then they tried to open up, and now they're one of the states with the greatest amount of cases. To answer your question about how it was, for me, I had very, very light symptoms. You know, I just had the flu for a week, and in the second week, I had an enormous fatigue, but I didn't feel that. I never felt in danger. I felt that my respiratory, you know, I wasn't having trouble breathing, and I didn't expect to. I think I'm always sort of assuming the best, but the disruption of having everybody going through this, and I'd passed this to my son too, so that while I was quarantining in my house, he was quarantining in his house, and his house was the only place I could go because I needed to take him food, and I had people dropping food to me, and you know, observing a very strict protocol when they would, you know, come from the store and they were masked, and they would like clean all the food and leave it in the room, and I would come in and get it. But then I would take it to my son's house. So, but the point is that it took all our time to do all this, you know, and just like as everybody else. And you spend a lot of time just reflecting and not being able to do what you normally do, go where you normally go. And I could say even like the album that I was in the middle of making, I couldn't complete in the amount of time I had, even though there were months to go in the schedule. Everything stopped for 3 months, so that I couldn't complete the last song, and I'm now I'm just delivering the record that will come out instead of October. It'll come out in February. But the benefit of having waited and had 3 months to just sit and listen to my roughs, look at the songs and think about the tracks was enormous. I feel like it's answered a need that's been there the whole time I've been making records, which is that once you get into the process of finishing a record, you're always on a deadline, and many things sort of slide away. And in terms of the perspective, you don't really have the room. I know some people make records where they've built in the room to really think about it, and they do it in a leisurely way, but I've never been able to. And this pandemic sort of afforded me just being in quarantine afforded me the ability to do that, and it made a big difference.
Have you anyhow changed the songs or adjust them to the new situation, to a new feeling, to the new feeling of the pandemic?
No, I wouldn't say. As a matter of fact, the album is very much a collection of songs that were written before the pandemic, and they're really about the longer trajectory of what's happening to just, the world and our individual lives. And so, oddly, I was about to release a couple singles so that I could. I would have something I was going to be on tour before the album was released. And I didn't want to wait to put this album out until the election had been decided. I mean, there's some songs that I think are rather urgent, and I wanted them out. And especially if I was going to be playing live, I wanted a couple new songs to play. And I no longer try to go out and play an entire new album. I think at this point, I've come to the realization that people come to hear music that they already know. And if the album isn't out, they may be able to hear a couple new songs. But, and I tell you what, I'm the same way. I want to hear the songs that I came, that's why I know to come, Yeah.
Is this song a little soon to say? You released a song already, as far as I know, and there's this line in it. I didn't find much wisdom. Is this the proper summary of your biography? Of your legendary artistry? I didn't find much wisdom because people would take the opposite of Jackson Browne.
Well, yeah. So I hope that that's a somewhat, compelling thought. Yeah. It's but also the real juxtaposition is that I didn't find much wisdom when time was on my side. Yeah. And to say there was too much information and too much time to decide. There was no hurry to decide about anything, when in fact every day you live, you're deciding something. You're living in a way that decides the future. So, yeah, I like that. I like those lines, but the realization was quite sincere. In the beginning of writing that, actually, was it was very emotional for me to. I mean, I have to say, I don't feel wise in the least. I don't, and I've tried. As hard as I've tried to be, literate and and put my shoulder to the wheel, and try to create, change for the better. On so many other levels and in so many other details of one's life, it's foolish. Human life is foolish. it's all pretty foolish.
You know, but what is definitely not foolish is the song "Human Touch" from last year, from 2019, and I think you made it, you produced it for a documentary about HIV patients treated by medical staff, and it's a little bit spooky because you know it fits so perfectly in our current time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Human touch.
Yeah, you really, you know, and now nobody can.
It's like a
my fellow songwriter sent me this email and said, perfect, now you can't even do that. You know, now we can't, no human touch, no, you know, don't touch me. You know, Randy Newman has a great song about that, you know. No, don't touch your face, don't touch me. You know, that song was very lucky. I was lucky to be invited to sing, to work on that song. I was initially offered to do it, and it was proposed that I work with Leslie, but I didn't know Leslie's working. No, actually, they were saying you could maybe work with a female singer, and we have somebody you might like, you know. But I said I didn't think I could do it because the subject was so daunting, you know, the subject of, I don't know if I could find my way into it. And I had a very good friend who died, not of AIDS, but a friend who was part of that generation that was in the AIDS epidemic in San Francisco, and who was gay, and who had just passed away. And I felt a real kinship with the people in the film and the subject of the film. And I didn't think I could sign up for writing a song that would fit at the end credits, and that would, you know, it's a tough assignment because you can't really retell the story. You can't really, you need to say something that's in some way adds something, but it can't sum up the movie, and you can't quote from it. You can't retell the story. It's hard, and the songwriters who were. And they kept saying, look, we'll just start on this thing and maybe you'll join. And that's what they did. They started that song and it really moved me. I thought it was a really great way into especially the opening lines, which Steve McEwan, you know, wrote, you know, are so, encapsulate the whole discussion about among religious people about homosexuality and same-sex marriage, you know, like, you know, you can call it a decision, you know, one's sexuality. I say it's how we're made. It's this most simple couplet. I just thought it was really like, I was very attracted to the song because of that. And then also, Leslie's such a fantastic singer, and it was so fulfilling to work with him. I'd never done that. I'd never really had the kind of collaboration where you spend time together, hashing things out or discussing the value of this syllable as opposed to that syllable, or whether yet, I mean, they said like, you know, like they say like in the chorus and they had preferences, you know, that were not my preferences, but I was persuaded, you know, by the way, you know, everybody gets lonely, and I was saying, feels like it, you know, and they said, no, feel like it's all too much. Feel like it's all too, what someone says to themselves, I feel, or feel like it's too much. Anyway, there's little ways in which they're attuned to the very, and because meaning resides in all these little details, but also in inflections and in the coloration of a phrase or a turn. And we argued about word, it was fantastic. We argued about every little word, you know, until it finally was something that really worked for all of us. And then, of course, the movie was not seen, but widely seen, you know. And I think it's a downer. It's a drag, you know. The whole but now it has, I think, a tremendous. I think you could release the movie again because of the idea of a pandemic that nobody wants to recognize, an epidemic that people are afraid. and they don't know enough about. Like in this film, there were doctors who had very courageously decided to treat these AIDS patients before they even knew how AIDS was passed from person to person, who would go home at night and have nightmares about infecting their family. But nonetheless, you know, took off the spacesuits and just simply treated these patients with, you know, humanity and dignity and love, really. And by that I mean they're doctors for all the best reasons, you know. And you have a lot of doctors in this country who are doctors because they thought it would be a lucrative thing to do, but I think the best of them are those who do it as a real calling to help others and to, you know, care for humanity.
Yeah. You told us already that you can't perform right now. You can't travel because of all these corona restrictions. But you take some time. You use your time to participate in an initiative from Steve Van Zandt, which is called Teach Rock. Maybe you can tell us what you do there together with people like Bono and Martin Scorsese. So what is Teach Rock about?
Well, Steven Van Zandt is amazing. Really a revolutionary at heart. He really wants to create meaningful change, and he really believes in rock and roll. He believes that music is a vehicle for empowerment, deep understanding, for motivating youth, and it's a way into their emotions and to their way of grappling with the world, which is increasingly hard, of course. And I don't know about the others who are involved, but in the foundation. But one thing he does, for instance, is you ask me what I do. I might help fundraise by going to a dinner with donors, or I might, I haven't, to answer is not much. I have not done that much, but I've done what I was asked to do. But in fact, what he does is really remarkable. He'll be on tour and he'll invite a bunch of teachers, high school teachers, to his concert, and he'll give them a special sort of have a meeting with them, and it might be 150 of them in a room or something, and then beside from the concert tonight, he'll give them this talk about what they're doing. And they've signed up to teach. He's created a curriculum and an interactive discussion of what songs are about, and they take particular songs, like they took, I think that song of mine they took was Downhill from, If I Could Be Anywhere, but it's a great thing to do. I did something similar a long time ago where kids were encouraged they were given, I'll tell you how long ago it was, they were given a cassette with my songs on one side and a talk on the other, or an interview, discussing why someone would want to write a song. And then they'd listen to your songs, and then they would write their own. And that was a program initiated by somebody at my record company, a fantastic person whose normal job is to charm DJs and get them to play your record. And she had this really great magnetism, and she was an intellect, and she got these kids, and it was hooked up with a magazine, Scholastic magazine, and it made it. 50,000 kids wrote songs, and and they were about really heavy things. So kids have a lot going on; they've got a lot to deal with, and Stephen recognizes that. In his program, he's bringing rock and roll into the classroom and discussing what the artists that these kids are exposed to in their lives anyway are talking about, and it's a chance to revitalize the learning process with the things that they really care about. And I'm very old now, and I'm becoming interested in history. But I couldn't have grappled. I couldn't have been less interested when I was young. I'm becoming history. So.
Oh yes, you are. You are not history, definitely not. But you are.
I'm not history yet.
No, but we have to talk about the political part of your biography, because of course you are a living musical legend. Of course you are, because you are one of the most important songwriters of all times, and you are since 2004 in the rock. I know you won't like that, but you are in the since 2004 you are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and everybody knows that Jackson Browne is an important figure in musical-wise, but political-wise as well, because you showed up in 1978 in front of a nuclear facility. I think it was in South Carolina, and I'm not sure if this started your life as a political activist, but you supported so many initiatives during your career. Would you say, from your perspective right now, would you say to younger people, what, I was around in the early 70s, and I witnessed the Nixon era, and another, president with lunatic behavior from time to time. So would you tell them, calm down, because everything repeats itself? It's, as you said before, life is foolish, and
no, I wouldn't tell them to calm down at all. Matter of fact, it's so welcome that youth are demonstrating, and that they taking matters into their hands, that becoming active. Whether we're talking about the rallies over gun violence, the Parkland students in our country, or whether you're talking about Greta Thunberg and the worldwide demonstrations about climate change, is very, very welcome that youth are recognizing the fact that this is their planet, this is their world, and that they're the ones that bear the they will bear onto they come to bear under the consequences of the generations before them. So they're quite right to make their voices heard, and especially to speak directly to those in power to do something. I mean, our country, my country, is notoriously moribund in the political structure. The two parties are so polarized, and but even so, as two parties, they're so alike in the way they respond to the world. I mean, I don't want to say that they're the same at all, but the political structure only addresses a portion of what's going on, even though people are trying very hard. But it seems very easy for them those two parties to get together and eliminate the hard questions in a debate. Let's just not even talk about that. You and I, we don't want to have to debate that issue. Neither one of us wants to talk about that. Let's not. And that's the level of denial and the level of dysfunction that youth are talking about. You're not doing anything, they say to our leaders. You're not even beginning to solve this problem. Of course, then you have the present president of our country, who is in open defiance of anything scientific, or in any way, who repudiates the gains made in the last 50 years towards social justice, human and civil rights. He's in open defiance, and that it's going to affect people in one of two ways. They're going to get really mad and do something and engage further, or they're going to just tune it out because they can't stand the sight of him or the sound of his voice. And they can't, or they just, and there, of course, in this country too, there's an incredible poverty, which I don't think, we're not especially known as being a poor country, the United States. But we are way down the line in terms of education, we're nowhere in terms of public health, of health care, And there's a great deal of poverty, and those people who are below the poverty line, of course, have no way to engage politically. Well, they can, but first things first, you have to eat, you have to find out, you have to try to live someplace. All the difficulty of living when you're penniless, makes the political process almost impossible. So we like to think we're a democracy, but we're really not. We are a democracy in name because so many people are excluded. Then there's the absurd idea that people can vote or not vote. Like there are places where you're required to vote, and they have a much more, like say Australia, and they have a much more vibrant political life. And also, they did really better in the pandemic because there's this level of civic responsibility that is accepted. Here's like a popular civic unresponsibility, like the lack of responsibility is a matter of pride, and it's associated with being defiant against, like, these people who are in denial about climate change and about the pandemic and about any kind of responsibility for the less wealthy among us, the less empowered, where it's a matter of pride for them to like flaunt these things as if it's a matter of style. It's a matter of like personal style. Yeah, I don't wear a mask, and I don't take responsibility. No, I don't. It's just like it's so. When you see a president like the one we have, you have to admit that it's a reflection of our society that man is the president.
Or at least a part of your, at least a part of your society, because just every fourth American voted for Donald Trump in 2016. But besides that, having said that, from your point of view, the U.S. is not a real democracy, but you are still engaged in the political process. You endorsed Barack Obama, and in 2016 you endorsed Bernie Sanders. So.
Well, I vote. I vote because. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of what you said.
This gesture, does it mean which choice do I have? Would you recommend that people go vote? Is this a recommendation by Jackson Browne? Please, people, go vote. Even if I say, or even my
absolutely, please vote, please. Yes, I would absolutely encourage people to vote, and now more than ever, it's not as if. I think it's really important that people vote. I think they should be required to vote. I think they should, I think there should be instant, what they call instant runoff voting, where you vote for your first preference and your second and your third, so that the winner would be instantly, tabulated. By instant, nothing in the voting process is instant in this country, because everything is disputed by those who want to just gain advantage and simply want to win the race, and so. But if we had that kind of system where you weren't going to be a spoiler if you voted for the less popular candidate, it wasn't going to ruin the chances of it was going to ruin Biden's chances to defeat Trump if you voted for the Green Party candidate. And why not do that? Because then people would know how many people did vote for that person's ideas, and that those votes, the second round of counting those votes go to the person, whoever they chose to be the second. In this case, it would probably most likely be, they would vote for Joe Biden. But that there's some reason why neither party wants to do that. And the Democrats don't want to do that because every year the advantage switches back and forth, and just the Democrats never want to sign up for any of these progressive reforms in voting, because they think they're just about to win, and they both believe in gaming the system. Both parties believe in gaming the game, winning the game, doing whatever, just shave a little off of there, do a little of that, take that advantage, play this dirty trick, play that card. And they all just believe that that's the way they'll win and that's the way they'll get to implement their policies. And of course, they believe in the rightness of their policies, but they don't necessarily believe in the well, they all pay into the idea that my ideas are the best way to serve the entire, society. But it's obvious that at least one of these parties, really believes that the fewer people who vote, it will be better for them. This is a notorious Republican speaking point and a position and a way that the thing that they've acted on. They want to disempower voters. They want to make sure as few people vote as possible. That's how they win. They win by not many people voting, and they try to make it impossible for the votes to be counted, but they also try to make it impossible for a person to go and vote without. Why should you spend 7 hours in a line waiting to vote? Unless it's been done on purpose by those people who control, and it is, the state government, which is a Republican, there's a Republican attorney general whose job it is to make voting laws, and they make it so people of color have a very difficult time getting to the polls or voting. They reduce the number of voting places. They reduce the hours. They make it. And now, of course, very famously, Trump has decided to. It's impossible to talk about without laughing, but because it's so wrong, it's unbelievable. He's trying to make it impossible to vote by the mail during a pandemic. It's so blatant and straightforwardly a fuck you to the American people.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what it is. It is so blatant. I'll let you edit this if you want. It is so blatant a rebuke of the very principles of democracy.
Yeah. So what do you expect?
That the majority will rule.
What result do you expect in fall? In November?
You asking me who I expect to win? I'm sorry. Is that what?
Yeah.
Well, I do. I expect that the American people will throw him out. That doesn't mean he'll leave, but. And when I say that, that's what they're openly talking about now. It's like, yeah, but will he leave? And I was like, when has that ever happened? When has that ever happened? Yeah, we expect him to lose the election by enough of a margin that it will be very clear it can't be gamed. It won't be decided by such like the Electoral College won't be able to put the person who got like 1 million, or 3 million fewer votes in office because of the machinations behind the scenes and but if he loses by a wide margin, he's already preparing his base to rebel, armed rebellion. He's literally encouraging people to take up arms he'll say if it'll be a fraud. The vote will be a fraud. If I lose, it'll be because it was a vote of fraud, and he's encouraging them to, Well, he's always been encouraging violence, and so I don't want to go on and on about this guy. He's got to go. He has got to go, and the people have to do their job. They have to become engaged, energetic, and defiant of that kind of wrong. They have to really stand up, and I think that, especially with all the demonstrations around, police killing of unarmed black men, which is the same racism that's at the heart of our country. It's at the heart of the founding of our country, slavery, and white supremacy. And that has got to be countered again, and it's got to be countered very, very strongly. And of course, when you do it by the rule of law, there's no guarantee that the law will be obeyed. Just because, and it's been shown again and again that if you pass a law That doesn't mean that you don't also, along with that, comes a reaction from the Ku Klux Klan in the Reformation times, or the, white supremacist groups now, and by the police, who are there to preserve the inequities of our society more than anything, more than keeping us safe. Keeping who safe? Keeping the people who own everything or own the majority of these things, keeping white people safe, or keeping rich people safe. And there are many great, there are all these great studies and scholarly essays about the origins of the police department and what the word police means. It comes from Roman times, I think, and polis had to do with the voice of the people, or who was going to be able to decide what was lawful and what was not lawful, and this was part of the democracy. Then it became just devolved into something just like an arm of government, and then government became not of the people, but of the controlling. Anyway, all that deserves to be really looked at, But I mean, none of this stuff is easy to talk about in a song. Let's be fair here. You can't really, like one of my favorite little Stephen quotes is one of these albums early on. He said, look, it's time for something really radical. Like, read a book. Because pop culture doesn't encourage you to do that. Well, that's what's so radical about getting rock and roll into the classroom. It empowers people, or it encourages people to, not only to write songs, but to listen to music and to take that as information and as literature and as, along with history and civics and science, and the workings of the English language.
Let's
language in general.
Talk in this context about the song "Downhill from Everywhere." This is maybe I didn't get it right, but the message is we are on the way down, and they in the end of the song you ask, do you think of the ocean as yours? But maybe you can correct me, Mr. Browne, if I get it wrong. But it seems like a pessimistic message.
It's not a very optimistic song, is it? It is specifically about the fact that everything that humanity does winds up in the ocean, which is downhill from everywhere. The ocean is downhill from everywhere. But the inference is that we are headed downhill. Everywhere we are headed downhill. We are losing our democracy, and we are, it works around to the idea that downhill from the NRA and the ICE and the RN, the idea that there's a de-evolution happening, and that we are that's an inference that the song, When you say downhill, it's like, it's like saying, we're going downhill. We're going downhill, because I'm describing life in its, especially American life, in all of its sort of variety. The bar, the baby's room, the stadium, the church, the prison, the mall. And I like this song a lot because it's not very linear. Because that all those inferences are there. But in fact, I'm trying to make a cover for this, and it's the title of the album, "Downhill from Everywhere." And not the whole album isn't about this. It's about a lot of things, but that song is about. It's really about the ocean. So when I say, do you think of the ocean as yours? I mean, is it yours, or does it belong to the people with the shipping companies? Does it belong to the fishing companies? And I belong to two different ocean advocacy organizations who basically advocate for the different things. Like one of them, the Ocean Elders, don't even think you should eat fish. If you love the ocean, don't eat fish. Don't kill them, you know. And the other one, Oceana, believes that you have to preserve, you have to take care of the ocean because this is the hope of humanity, that the ocean can feed humanity. So yeah, we're going to eat fish. And they both advocate for the same protections of the ocean, of renewing the fisheries, of limiting the amount of fishing, of opposing dumping, of having vigorous and engagement, you know, by governments of the waters that come under their and limiting, you know, drilling, limiting dumping. All these things, you know, have to be done. And they both believe in all doing the same things, but one of them hopes that eventually the ocean will feed. Well, it already feeds the world. It already feeds most of the world. But for how long? Because as they both will tell you, and especially the ocean elders will tell you, that there are parts of the ocean that are dying. And this is what the song says. I mean, every second breath you take comes from the ocean. We're brought up now believing that the rainforests are where all the oxygen comes from. But really half of the oxygen that our planet has comes from sea life. And there are appearing dead spots in the ocean. So, I mean, coral reefs, I mean, we're losing an alarming amount. So, like, no, it's not an optimistic song. It's a very good question. Do you think this is your ocean? And if so, you know, if so, we would have to, you know, you'd have to read and engage about it. I don't think there's any song that's going to tell you what steps to take to save the ocean. I was starting another song a long time ago, like, baby's going to save the ocean, baby's going to save the sea. I know she can do it because she spent so much time saving me. See, people can't look out of their own little lives and recognize that the world around them is about to perish because of what they do in their lives. You know, we are the virus. Forget COVID. Humanity is a virus. It is the next meteor to hit the Earth. It is a meteor that has hit the Earth. I mean, it has had more impact. We live in a epoch now that has begun called Anthropocene. The past epoch was the Holocene, but the Anthropocene is the time on Earth which is driven by, well, human activity. And you have, you know, the leaders like the leaders of my country who don't believe that climate warming even exists, let alone that it is driven by human activity. So, you know, that's part of the problem. It's just like, you know, like the halls of government are like some sort of Superfund site. It's like a site of a lot of toxic dumping. You know, I mean, there were lines downhill from everywhere, you know, that I wound up not putting in because it just sort of, you know, downhill from the White House, downhill from the dump, downhill from the biopsy and the malignant lump, or the suspicious lump. We know that the Trump presidency is a cancer, but we don't have to sing about it.
to let our talk end on a happy note, two questions. When do we get your new album? When do we get it? And when do we see you again live over here in Europe?
Well, I think you get the album. I think it's going to be released in February. So February for the album, and hopefully by that time, I mean, I think that the European tours, I can't really say exactly what it's been moved to, but by that time I think I will have hopefully been touring in Japan and Australia, and by May touring in the United States. And I think that Europe maybe sometime in the summer. But I don't know, because the reality is that people can postpone a tour for a year, but they're just still, first they postponed it for a month, and then they were moving the legs of the tour, you know, farther and farther away, and finally they said, like, let's move the whole thing back a year. It's very hard to move something with that many parts, you know? And so I wait. Like you, I'm waiting to find out when we're all gonna be, you know, able to play again. I know, you know, I was talking with Mavis Staples yesterday on a Zoom interview, you know, and she's going stir crazy. I was saying, Mavis, what is it like for you, this pandemic? Do you miss playing? And she was just like beside herself with, you know, just I'm so used to being with people, you know. She's just going crazy being alone in her house, and she's one of those people that really pulls people together. Really, is such an example of the best of what a live concert can do. And I think everybody wants to get back to where they can. I'll tell you this one more example. My friend Grace Potter did a tour where they play in drive-in theaters, you know, like to cars. And I said, well, what do they do at the end of the song? They honk? She said, yeah, they honk. They honk. And they blink their lights. So for a culture that's now going to be going, you get, you know, as many people as you can get into a car who you're sure about, all the people that you don't have to wear a mask with, and then you know. And I think they maybe have tables that car can get to a table next to them, but that's the other model. My friend Jonathan Richman said, how about this idea? You just get the promoters to put these groups, you reserve a table for 6 or a table for 2, and you come with your family or friends or your date, and you're separate from those people, but you're together with the people that and in the whole room, of course, you feel like you're together. And I think that he was using a Dave Chappelle concert as a model for that idea. But, you know, it's hard to say where we're headed, you know, as in view of what we're doing to the planet, and it's really hard to escape the idea that the COVID pandemic is also a result of human activity, the way we've lived on the planet, and I think it's going to become more and more complex. They all say that, all the scientists say that this is just the beginning, and it's going to become this kind of a question in our everyday lives and in our future. You know, how to survive because look what we've done. We've eradicated germs, and you know. Anyway, it could go. The discussion doesn't really end with whether or not you can go play. You know, I mean, I want to play, but on the other hand, like, I've played a lot. You know, I could go do something else. You know, but I feel bad. I mean, how are we moving? How are we moving as a? Will we have a generation of kids that have never been to a live concert? Possibly.
Hopefully not. Jackson Browne, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much indeed.
You can call it a decision. I say it's how we're made. There's no point in shouting from your island, proclaiming only Jesus saves. There will always be suffering, and there will always be pain. But because of it, there'll always be love, and love we know it will remain. Everybody gets lonely, feel like it's all too much, reaching out for some connection, or maybe just their own reflection. Everybody wants to feel the sun. Get outside and run around. Live like they're forever young. Everybody wants to be beautiful and live life their own way. No one ever wants to let it go, no matter what they do or say. Everybody gets lonely, feel like it's all too much. Reaching out for some connection, or maybe just their own reflection. Not everybody finds it, not like the two of us. Sometimes all anybody needs is a human touch. Sometimes all anybody needs is a human touch. Everybody gets lonely, feel like it's all too much. Reaching out for some connection, or maybe it's just their own reflection. Not everybody finds it, not like the two of us. Sometimes all anybody needs is a human touch. Sometimes all anybody needs is a human